Hi there everybody, my name is Derek, and in this video, I'd like to share with you 10 important terms from the Confucian Analects and my suggested translations of those terms. Now, if you have any questions or suggestions of your own, by all means, leave a comment below, and if you like this video, please click like and subscribe. Thank you. Now, the first term I'd like to talk about is 君子. Confucius wanted all of his students, all of his disciples, to become a 君子. Now, the word 君子, in its original meaning, refers to a member of the ruling class, the aristocracy. But in the Confucian sense and in the modern sense, it refers to someone of an outstanding virtuous character, which is why I prefer to translate the term 君子 as noble, a noble person. Therefore, we could say that Confucius wanted all of his disciples, all of his students, to become noble people, no matter if they were a member of the nobility or not. If you wanted to emphasize that it's more about virtue than status, you could also translate 君子 as noble-minded, a noble-minded person. The second term I'd like to talk about is the opposite of a noble person, 小人, which literally translates to small person. Even though in English you could call someone a small person and convey that meaning, I prefer to translate 小人 as a petty person. Now, how does a person mold his or her character into that of a noble-minded person? Well, there are 5 virtues in Confucian philosophy. And let's go over these 5 because they are actually quite difficult to translate. And so for the third term, 人 is the same pronunciation as the word for person. But when you look at the character, you can see that it's composed of 2 parts. On the left is the radical for 人, person, and on the right is the character 二, which means 2. Therefore, from the character, we can see that 人 has to do with the way that 2 or more people interact with each other. In order for a society, a community, a group of people to function properly together, there must be 人. Now, you might see 人 translated as mercy, benevolence, or compassion, and these translations are fine, but these words are not commonly used in everyday English. And I prefer to use the translation kindness, which is an everyday word, but still a very powerful word. If you wanted to use an even stronger word to convey the meaning, you could use the word kind heart, kind-heartedness. Confucius teaches people to have a kind heart. Now let's take a look at the next virtue and our 4th term, 义. 义 is a difficult term to translate because it's a very versatile word and it's used in a lot of compound terms. Now, 义 is all about doing the right thing, the just thing. And that's why it gets translated as righteousness and justice more often than not. But in everyday English, you rarely hear someone calling someone else righteous or someone calling someone else just. These terms are a little bit outdated. I think the best translation is moral. Moral, a moral person. Now, if we say, oh, this person is a moral person, this person has a strong moral sense, in fact, what we are saying is that this person is a righteous person, this person is a just person, but we're just saying it in another way. Okay, next virtue and term number 5, 礼. In Confucius' time, there were many different kinds of ceremonies. And in ceremonies, like wedding ceremonies or whatever kind of ceremonies you can think of, there are many rituals. Now, what is a ritual? We don't really use the word ritual anymore in everyday English, but that doesn't mean we don't have rituals anymore, because we still have rituals, but we don't call them rituals. We associate ritual with religious activity when in fact we have rituals, we participate in rituals all the time. Shaking hands or touching elbows is in fact a kind of ritual, even though we wouldn't call it such. Now let's say someone puts his elbow out to touch your elbow and you pull your elbow back. You're not going to say, oh, that guy is not following the ritual. How come you didn't follow the ritual? You'd say, oh, that guy is impolite. Or you would say that that guy is disrespectful because they didn't follow the etiquette. Now, these are different ways you can translate the word 礼 depending on the situation. You can translate it as ritual, you can translate it as etiquette, you can translate it as polite or politeness, and you can even translate it as respect. Let's take a look at the next virtue and word number 6, 智. 智 we can translate as wisdom. If we translate this famous line, 智者不惑, a wise person is without confusion. 仁者不忧, a kind-hearted person is without worry. 勇者不惧, a brave person is without fear. Okay, now let's take a look at the last of the virtues and word number 7, 信. Now, the easiest way to translate this word is as trust. And if we're talking about a person's character, we can say that that person is trustworthy or not trustworthy. That was another easy one. Now let's move on to number 8, 笑. Now, the common English translation of this term was made by Professor James Legg over 150 years ago. Filial piety. But most people, in fact, have never heard of the term filial piety. So you'd have to explain the meaning a little bit in order for them to understand what is filial piety. How would you say this person is good at filial piety? Well, the best way to do that is rather simple. You just call the person a good son or a good daughter. Okay, now we're on to word number 9. Let's take a look at it. 忠. 忠 is loyal, loyalty. This person is very loyal. This is a loyal dog. Everybody likes dogs. Everybody likes loyalty. Now, 曾子曰吾日三省吾身. Every day I reflect 3 times, or at least 3 times, on my behavior. 为人谋而不忠乎? When I'm working for others, when I'm cooperating with others, am I loyal? And 与朋友交而不信乎? When I'm with my friends, is there trust? Am I trustworthy? Do my friends have trust in me? 传不习乎? What I learned from my teacher, do I put that into practice or not? Now we're up to number 10. The final word we have is 恕. 忠恕 is defined in the Analytics as 己所不欲，不施于人. What we do not want done to ourselves, do not do unto other people. Now, how do we translate that into English? We could say tolerance, magnanimity, 宽恕. Or maybe we could just say empathy. And that is the last of the 10 terms. And I hope this video has been very helpful for you in understanding how to translate these terms. If you are a Chinese speaker, you have a better understanding of how to translate them into English. And if you are an English speaker, then you have a better understanding of these Confucian concepts. And if you like this video, you can watch some of the other videos on this channel and click like and subscribe. Okay, goodbye everybody.